My parents always told me my sister was just going through a phase whenever she hurt me. But after I found her hidden journal in the attic, I finally understood why they let her ruin my life, and the truth tore our family apart forever. From the outside, we looked like a normal, happy family. A perfect suburban home with a white picket fence in a quiet neighborhood in Indiana. My dad was a financial advisor who wore the same pressed blue suit every morning. My mom stayed at home, always busy with some kind of project, meal prepping, reupholstering furniture, or organizing the pantry like it was going to be featured in a magazine. And then there was us, the daughters. There was my older sister, Bella, blonde, beautiful, and brilliant. She had this natural confidence that made adults adore her and kids fear her. And then there was me, Maya, 2 years younger, quieter, more observant. I was the girl teachers forgot about and strangers barely noticed. If Bella was the sun, I was the moon hiding behind the clouds. And maybe that would have been okay, except Bella wasn't just golden on the outside. Behind closed doors, she was cruel. But every time I tried to tell my parents, they'd brush it off. She's just going through a phase, Maya. She doesn't mean it. You know how teenage girls are. But it wasn't just teenage drama. It was calculated. When I was 10, she cut all the sleeves off my favorite hoodie and told me I must have done it in my sleep. I believed her. When I was 12, she spread a rumor at school that I had lice. I lost the only two friends I had that year. I cried to mom, and she just said, Bella's under a lot of stress lately. Don't make it worse. When I turned 13, I stopped trying to get them to listen. I learned to survive around Bella, like how you'd tiptoe around a sleeping bear. I'd lock my bedroom door, I'd eat quickly and disappear upstairs. But still, the small acts of sabotage never stopped. One time, she threw away my science project the night before it was due. Another time, she texted my crush pretending to be me, saying things I would never say. I'll never forget walking into school the next day and seeing the look on his face: disgust, confusion. That moment stayed with me for years. But through it all, the worst part wasn't Bella, it was how invisible my pain was to our parents. They'd go to her piano recitals, cheer her on at swim meets, post her awards on Facebook. Our beautiful, talented Bella. They'd write, We're so proud. And me? I was the background character in every family photo, the one holding the camera, the one nobody noticed crying behind the smile. By the time I got to high school, Bella was already a senior, homecoming queen, honor roll, early acceptance into NYU. Everyone adored her. Teachers, boys, even our neighbors. I tried not to care. I focused on my own little world, reading, journaling, staying out of her way. But then came the night that changed everything. It was the night of Bella's graduation party. Our house was filled with streamers, balloons, and a cake that probably cost more than my entire birthday did the year before. Everyone was there: family, friends, her boyfriend Jake, and me, standing awkwardly in the kitchen, holding a paper plate I didn't even want to eat off of. Jake came over to say hi. He was the only one who ever seemed genuinely nice to me. I smiled, grateful someone noticed I existed. But Bella noticed too. Later that night, after everyone left and the house was quiet, I went up to my room. I was exhausted, but when I opened my door, I froze. My mattress was slashed. My books were torn. My journal, my private journal, was ripped apart and taped to my wall, page by page, like a twisted art piece. Things I wrote in secret, things I was too scared to say out loud. My crushes, my fears, my thoughts about Bella, my dreams of leaving someday. All of it exposed. I fell to my knees. It felt like my soul had been pulled out of my chest. I heard Bella's laugh from the hallway, a quiet, mocking laugh. And then, as if it were all routine, my mom yelled from downstairs, Girls, stop being dramatic. Bella, leave your sister alone. That was it. That was always a one-sentence scolding with no real consequences. I stayed in my room for 2 days. I didn't eat. I didn't speak. And still, no one checked on me. It was in that silence that I started to wonder, why? Why did they let her treat me this way? Why did they never believe me? Why did they protect her, no matter what she did? I didn't get my answer then. But years later, I would find something that changed everything. A dusty, hidden journal buried in a box in the attic. One that didn't belong to me, but to Bella. And what was inside that journal didn't just explain the favoritism. It shattered the foundation of everything I thought I knew about my family. Bella left for college that August, and the house suddenly felt quieter. Not peaceful, just empty. Like all the noise and chaos that once masked the tension had been vacuumed out, leaving behind a kind of echo. My parents didn't talk about her much in front of me, but I'd still hear them whisper at night when they thought I was asleep. Sometimes mom would cry. Other times, dad would say things like, "We just have to keep supporting her the way we promised." I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I noticed something strange. When Bella called, mom would take the phone into the laundry room and close the door. When Bella visited on breaks, I'd be told to go sleep at a friend's house or stay at Aunt Paula's for the weekend. It was subtle at first, but I was being removed. Almost like they were afraid I'd be in the same space with her. I didn't push back. I was so used to being overlooked by then, I just accepted it. That's what life was. You exist quietly, and you don't make noise. The only place I ever let myself have a voice was my journal. I wrote obsessively about school, my parents, my loneliness, my confusion about the way Bella was still the center of everything even after she moved out. I filled notebook after notebook. Sometimes I'd reread old entries and find myself crying, not because of what I'd written, but because of how badly I needed to be heard when I wrote them. Like little Maya had been sending messages in a bottle and no one ever opened them. Senior year came, and I was finally getting close to leaving. I had good grades, an acceptance letter to a college in Michigan, and for the first time, the chance to build a life that wasn't centered around being Bella's sister. But then, everything came crashing down again. One night, about 2 months before graduation, I was cleaning the garage with Dad. We were moving some old boxes up to the attic, stuff from when Bella and I were kids. There was one box marked Crafts and Schoolwork of Bella. It was heavier than the rest. When I got to the attic, I tripped on a loose board and the box tipped over. Paper spilled everywhere, crayon drawings, math tests, glitter covered Christmas cards. But beneath all that was a leather bound journal. It looked nothing like her usual school journals. This one was worn, locked, and old. I picked it up and saw her name scrawled on the inside cover in faded gold ink. Bella, age 13. I shouldn't have opened it, I know that. But my hands were already flipping through the pages before I could stop myself. And what I found inside didn't just terrify me, it destroyed me. Entry, October 12th. Mom said if I ever tell Maya the truth, it'll ruin everything. She says it's better if she thinks I'm just mean. But it doesn't feel fair. I don't want to be the villain. I didn't ask for this. Entry, November 2nd. Sometimes I look at Maya and wonder if she knows. She looks like him, you know. Same eyes. It's hard not to hate her sometimes. Entry, January 6th. Dad says I need to be strong. That we're a family and families keep secrets. But I feel like I'm going crazy. I want to scream it out loud. I want someone to understand why I can't love her the way I'm supposed to. My breath caught in my throat. I sat down right there on the attic floor and read until my eyes burned. Page after page, Bella wrote about a secret. Something huge. Something that made my parents ask her to play the role of a normal big sister, even though something inside her was breaking. She hated me, but not just because she was mean or jealous. She hated me because of who I was, because of something she knew that I didn't. That night, I didn't sleep. I hid the journal under my bed and stared at the ceiling until the sun came up. My head swirled with questions. What did she mean by, she looks like him? Why would my parents make her keep something so heavy, so twisted, all to herself? The next morning, I went straight to my mom. She was making coffee when I walked into the kitchen, and I remember my hands shaking. Mom, I said. Why does Bella hate me? She turned around, blinking fast like I'd slapped her. Maya, what are you talking about? I read her journal, the one from when she was 13. Her face went pale. The mug in her hand slipped and shattered on the floor. She didn't even react to the shards. She just stared at me. You weren't supposed to find that, she whispered. That's when I knew. Whatever was in that journal, it was real. And it was something they had buried for years. Something so dark that they let my sister destroy me just to keep it hidden. I looked my mother dead in the eye and asked the question that had haunted me all night. Who is my real father? She didn't say a word, just turned away and sank to the floor. Silence. That's all that filled the kitchen after I asked my mom who my real father was. She just sat there on the floor, eyes blank, like someone had cut the strings that held her up. My heart was racing, pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The air felt too thick to breathe. I deserve to know, I said, my voice cracking. Please. I've spent my entire life wondering why she hates me. Why you let her. Why I was never enough. My mom finally looked up at me. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying, not yet. You were never the problem, Maya, she whispered. You were never the mistake. But I knew what that meant. Deep down, I'd already started putting the pieces together. Bella's journal just confirmed it. I wasn't my dad's daughter, and Bella had known since she was 13. She stood up slowly and went to the cabinet, pulling down a small tin box I had never seen before. Inside were old letters, hospital bracelets, a photograph of her with a man I didn't recognize. He had dark hair, strong features, and my eyes. She handed me the photo without a word. His name was Daniel, she said quietly. I met him when your dad and I were separated. For 6 months, we were in counseling, trying to figure things out. And you cheated? I asked, barely able to say the words. No, she said quickly. It wasn't like that. Your dad and I were on a break. He moved out for a while. I never planned to fall for someone else, but it happened. And then I got pregnant. My stomach dropped. Did Dad know? She nodded slowly. I told him as soon as I found out. I was ready to raise you on my own, but he said he'd come back, that we'd pretend you were his, that we'd raise you as a family. Start over. And Bella? I asked. She looked away. She heard us talking one night. We didn't know until months later, but by then she'd already changed. She started pulling away from me, from you. We tried to explain that it didn't matter, that you were her sister no matter what. But she never forgave me. I felt sick, like the entire ground beneath my life had shifted and I was falling through some invisible crack. You let her hate me, I said, my voice shaking. You let her take it out on me, year after year, and you just told me she was going through a phase? We were trying to protect you, she said. We thought, if we told you, it would ruin your childhood. We hoped Bella would come around, that she'd see you as family again. But she never did, and we didn't know how to fix it without breaking you too. I stepped back, clutching the photo in my hand. Do I have any right to know him? Daniel? I asked. Her face collapsed. He died in a car accident when you were 2, she whispered. You used to ask about the man in that picture when you were little. I always told you he was a family friend. I stared at her, at this woman who had held me when I was sick, braided my hair before school, packed my lunches, and lied to my face every single day of my life. Suddenly, so many things made sense. The way Bella looked at me, the way Dad never fully connected with me, even though he tried, the way Mom always walked on eggshells whenever the three of us were in the same room. They hadn't just kept a secret, they'd built a life on it. And I was the foundation. That night, I didn't eat dinner. I didn't speak to either of them. I locked my bedroom door and pulled out every old photo I could find. Every birthday, every vacation, every school play. I looked for the cracks, and they were everywhere now. The way Bella stood stiffly next to me, never really touching me. The way my dad's smile never quite reached his eyes when he stood beside me. The way my mom always placed herself between us in every picture, like she was the buffer holding it all together. I wanted to scream. I wanted to disappear. Instead, I wrote, page after page. I poured it all out. The pain, the betrayal, the numbness. I had spent so long feeling like the broken one, the spare child, the invisible sister. But it was never about me. It was about a choice they made, and a secret they let fester until it turned love into resentment and family into fiction. The next day, I didn't go to school. I told my mom I needed space. She didn't argue. I took the journal and the photo and walked to the lake near our neighborhood. It was cloudy, the kind of gray sky that made the world feel like it had hit pause. And for the first time in years, I cried like a little girl. Not because I didn't know who I was, but because now I did, and no one had ever told me. 3 days passed after I found out the truth, and none of us said a word to each other. My mom tiptoed around me like she was waiting for me to explode. My dad tried twice to have a talk, but I shut it down each time. I wasn't ready. Every time I looked at them, all I could think was, you raised me on a lie. But it wasn't until Bella came home for spring break that everything truly unraveled. I was in the kitchen when I heard her voice, loud, laughing, like nothing had ever happened. It sent a chill down my spine. I hadn't seen her in nearly a year. I thought she'd changed, grown up, maybe softened with time. But when she walked into the kitchen and saw me, her smile faded instantly, like I was a ghost she hadn't expected to see. Oh, she said flatly. You're here. I nodded, keeping my hand steady as I poured orange juice into a glass. She dropped her bag by the stairs and leaned against the wall. I figured Mom would have sent you off to Grandma's or something. Not this time, I said quietly. She crossed her arms, raising an eyebrow. What? No hug for your big sister. I looked her dead in the eye. You're not my sister. Silence fell between us. I could hear the clock ticking above the stove, the buzz of the fridge. Bella blinked, then smiled, but it wasn't kind. It was bitter, cold. So, she said, you found it. The journal, I said. Yeah. She let out a dry laugh and looked away, biting her bottom lip. Took you long enough. Something about the way she said it made me realize she wanted me to find it. She had left it in that box on purpose. She had known eventually I'd stumble across it, that it would do the damage she wasn't allowed to say out loud. Why? I asked. Why did you hate me so much? I was just a kid, Bella. You were supposed to protect me. I did protect you, she snapped, suddenly angry. From the truth. From the mess you came from. Do you know what it felt like? Knowing my dad came back for you? Knowing Mom picked you? The reminder of her cheating over me? She didn't cheat, I said. They were separated. They told me everything. Bella scoffed. Yeah, that's what they told you. But you don't know what it was like in this house, Maya. You don't know how many nights I listened to them fight. How many times I watched our family fall apart while you just toddled around like nothing was wrong. You were the grenade. They just never told you. Her words cut deeper than anything I'd ever heard. But beneath the anger, I saw something else, pain. Raw and unresolved. Like she'd been carrying it for years and didn't know how to let it go. I didn't ask to be born, I said, voice shaking. You think I wanted to destroy your family? To grow up wondering why my sister hated me. Why my parents never looked me in the eye when I asked why. Bella looked down. For the first time in years, she looked small. Not scary. Not cruel. Just lost. I used to love you, you know, she said softly. When you were little. Before I knew. I used to sneak into your room and read to you while you slept. I used to help you brush your teeth. I even covered for you once when you broke Mom's vase. My chest tightened. But after I found out, she continued, I saw you differently. You weren't my sister anymore. You were the reason Dad left. The reason Mom cried every night. And no one ever asked how I felt. No one ever thought maybe I needed help. Tears filled my eyes. Not for myself this time, but for her. We were both victims of the same secret. But while I grew up confused and unloved, she grew up bitter and betrayed. And neither of us got to be whole. I hated you, she said, voice cracking. And I hated myself for it. Because no matter how angry I got, I still looked at you and saw that little girl who used to laugh when I made stupid sock puppets. I stepped forward, carefully, slowly. I don't want to hate you, I whispered. I just want to understand. And maybe, someday, forgive. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. For once, she didn't look like the monster I'd written about in my journal. She looked like a broken mirror, shards of someone who had never been allowed to heal. I'm sorry, she said, for everything. For the names, the bruises, the silence. I thought hurting you would make me feel better, but it just made everything worse. We both stood there, crying. The tension between us, years of pain and confusion, was still thick, but something had shifted. Maybe not forgiveness. Not yet, but understanding. Later that night, Bella sat down with our parents and told them everything. What she remembered, how it felt, how the pressure to keep the secret turned her into someone she didn't recognize. They cried. All of them. I stayed upstairs, listening through the vent, my heart pounding as the pieces finally started falling into place. They promised therapy, healing, transparency. But I didn't trust promises anymore. Still, it was a start, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't the forgotten one. I was the truth they could no longer bury. It's strange, the way the truth changes things. It doesn't fix what's broken. It doesn't erase the pain, but it clears the fog. It makes the scars visible for what they are and for what caused them. A week after the confrontation, Bella packed her things and left again. This time, she didn't slam the door. She hugged our mom. She looked my dad in the eyes. And she stood on the front steps and looked at me like she didn't know what to say. So I said it for her. Take care of yourself, I told her. Don't hide anymore. She nodded. You either. And just like that, she was gone. Again. But it didn't feel like abandonment this time. It felt like space. A needed breath between storms. The following weeks were heavy. Our house felt quieter, more fragile. My mom tried to pretend things were normal, cooking dinners, watering plants, talking about my classes, but we both knew it wasn't the same. My dad. He avoided me at first. Not out of cruelty, but guilt. It clung to him like a shadow. Until one night, I found him sitting on the back porch, staring at the stars like he was searching for answers in constellations. I didn't know how to be your dad, he said before I even sat down. But I wanted to. God, I wanted to. I stayed silent, watching the breeze sway the branches of the old maple tree in our yard. You weren't mine, he continued, but you were ours, and I thought that would be enough. That if I just loved you the same, things would fall into place. But when Bella changed, I didn't know how to balance it. I was scared of breaking everything. You still broke it, I said gently. He nodded. I know. There was a pause, thick with memories we hadn't shared. Do you hate me? He asked. I thought about it, about all the birthdays where he looked distant, all the school plays where I caught him glancing at Bella with pride but barely clapping for me. I thought about how I had craved a connection and gotten crumbs. No, I said honestly, but I think I resented you. For a long time. He wiped his face. I deserve that. I don't want to live in resentment anymore, I added. But I'm not ready to forget. Not yet. That's fair. And for the first time, it felt like he saw me, not as a mistake, not as a reminder, but as his daughter. Maybe not by blood, but by years, by shared silence, by all the things we both endured and never said. After that night, things began to shift. Slowly, we started family therapy. It was awkward and painful at first, with long pauses and tears and more truth than I ever thought we'd be brave enough to say. My mom finally apologized, not just for the lie, but for letting me grow up without the protection and validation I deserved. I was scared of losing both of you, she told me in one session. But in doing so, I lost you anyway. Her words stayed with me, not because they made everything okay, but because for once, she owned what she had done. And Bella, surprisingly, began to write to me. Letters, not texts, not emails. Handwritten letters, just like her journal. The first one came 3 weeks after she left. Maya, I don't know if I have a right to write you. I probably don't, but I need to try. I'm in therapy now. Real therapy, not school mandated stuff. I told my therapist everything about the journal, the fights, the lies, and the way I blamed you for everything I couldn't process. She said forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, it means setting yourself free. So this is me trying. I don't expect you to write back, but I hope someday you will. And if not, just know I'm not hiding anymore. I see what I did, and I'm sorry. Love, Bella. I read that letter 3 times before I cried. There's still a part of me that flinches when I hear her name. Still a part of me that hears her voice in the back of my mind when I'm nervous or scared. But the letter, that was the first real olive branch she'd ever offered. I didn't write back. Not yet. But I placed her letter in a box labeled Truth and kept it under my bed. Maybe someday, I'll fill that box with more. Her letters, my journal entries, the photo of Daniel I now keep framed on my desk. Because the truth, as messy as it was, gave me something I never had before. Clarity. I'm not broken because of what happened to me. I'm strong because I survived it. And I'm learning, day by day, that family isn't just about blood or history or shared holidays. Sometimes, family is about who shows up after the truth is out, who stays when the lies unravel. And sometimes, it's about who you become when the dust finally settles. I'm Maya. I was raised on a lie, but now I'm writing my own truth, one page at a time.